Do you remember John the Baptist? We first met him before Christmas when he was born as a baby to Elizabeth and her husband Zechariah. Now Elizabeth, of course, was Mary's cousin. Now when John grew up into a man, he looked like a prophet because he was a prophet. He dressed in a tunic made of camel hair. Oh, itchy! And he wore a leather belt around his waist, and his food was wild honey and locusts. Locusts! Sounds horrible to me, but he must have liked it. Now John came to prepare the way for Jesus. But some people didn't like John. Most importantly, the king did not like John. He didn't like John telling people to turn back to God. So to try and stop him talking, he put John in prison. So poor John was sent off to prison by the king. In you go, John. You're going inside. Poor John. Now, while he was in prison, John was having a think. And this is what he thought. Well, if Jesus is the true king, why am I in prison? Why hasn't he taken over from that king? And why isn't he getting rid of the Romans? That's what we all thought he was going to do. Or have I got it wrong? So one day, when John's friends came to visit him, he spoke to them and he said, "Go and find Jesus. Ask him, are you the Messiah, or should we be expecting somebody else?" So John's friends went off to find Jesus. Now at that time, in an area called the Decapolis, which was not that far from Galilee, there lived a man who was deaf. And because this poor man was deaf, he had never heard people speak to him properly, so he had never learned to talk properly either. So life was very difficult for this man. Now, Jesus and his disciples were travelling in the area. Now, I know that you all know that Jesus had 12 disciples, but I've just got Simon and Andrew and James and John with him today. And they were travelling through the area, and some people heard about it. Hey, did you know that Jesus is coming? Jesus is coming. Yes, Jesus is coming. I know what we should do. We should take that man, you know, the one who can't hear and the one who can't talk. Yes, let's take him to Jesus. What an excellent idea. Good thinking. Come on then. Now, I don't know how they explained it to him because he couldn't hear, so maybe they wrote it down. But they took the man to Jesus. Jesus, this man needs your help. He can't hear and he can barely talk. Please do something for him. Jesus took the man away from the crowd. He put his fingers on the man's ears and then he touched his tongue. Then he looked up to heaven and he sighed. and he said, Ephatha, which means be opened. Immediately, the man could hear clearly. Not only that, he could speak plainly. I can hear! I can speak! Jesus said. Now, don't tell anyone about this, but people were so amazed that they couldn't stop talking about it. Do you know what Jesus did? Yes, that man who was deaf and who couldn't speak, he healed him. Hey, do you know what Jesus did? The man who couldn't speak, the man who couldn't hear, Jesus has healed him. And he can talk to everyone now. It's true. We've seen it. We've seen him. Hey, have you heard what Jesus did? And so it went on. Later on, Jesus and his disciples were passing through Jericho. Now there was a man who used to sit at the side of the road, called Bartimaeus. Poor Bartimaeus was blind. Now, of course, that made life very difficult for him. So difficult that he couldn't work for a living, and he had to sit at the side of the road with his begging bowl and beg for money. Sometimes people passed by and put money into his begging bowl. So that was what he did each day. He sat at the side of the road waiting for people to pass by and hoping that they would be kind enough to give him a few coins. Here's a few coins. Oh, thank you, thank you. Hey, did you know Jesus of Nazareth is coming this way? Jesus? Jesus of Nazareth, you say? Yes, that's the one. Bartimaeus got very excited. Of course, he couldn't see Jesus, so he just began to shout, Jesus, 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 Son of David, have mercy on me. Some people told him off. Hey, you shouldn't shout at Jesus like that. Yes, be quiet. But Bartimaeus was determined to get to Jesus, and he shouted all the more, Jesus, Jesus, Son of David, have mercy on me. Jesus stopped. Call him over, he said. So they did. Come on, it's your lucky day. Up you get, he's calling you, Bartimaeus. Bartimaeus jumped up and went to Jesus. Jesus asked him, What is it you want me to do for you? Teacher, said Bartimaeus, I want to be able to see. Well, said Jesus, I can tell that you trust me because you believe that I can heal you. You, Bartimaeus, have faith in me. And because you have faith in me, you have been healed. You may go. Immediately, Bartimaeus could see. I can see! But he didn't go. No, he followed Jesus and his disciples down the road. Now, when John the Baptist's friends turned up, they heard what people were saying. Jesus just healed a blind man. Yes, and the other day, Jesus healed a deaf man. When they came to Jesus, he spoke to them. Go back to John, said Jesus, and report what you have heard and seen. The blind receive their sight, the sick are healed, and the deaf hear. And the good news of God is being shared to everyone. and John's disciples went back to John. When they went back to John, they said, "John, John, Jesus says that the blind receive their sight, the sick are healed, and the deaf hear, and the good news of God is being shared." And then John remembered that this is exactly what the scriptures had said the Messiah would do. So the important thing to remember from this week's story from the Bible is this: Jesus healed a blind man, and Jesus healed a deaf man. And the scriptures said that this is what God's Messiah would do. Jesus is the promised Messiah. Well, we all know that, don't we? So trust in him, trust in Jesus, and follow him. And now we're going to do our craft to help us remember the story and to tell it to other people.